All right, good morning, everyone. This meeting is called to order of the Old Colony MPO, today, May 20th, 2025. Charlie, please call the roll.
Yes, Derek Schuster.
Derek Schuster, representing MassDOT Secretary and CEO Monica Tibbetts-Nutt, here.
Pat Hill.
Here.
Dan Salvucci.
Here, and also Vice Chair of the Joint Transportation Committee.
Thank you. Mike Lambert.
Here.
Mary Waldron. I know Mary's here, but if she's offline, I will represent OCPC. Charles Kilmer here. You have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Do we have any members of the public wishing to make a comment at this time? Seeing and hearing none, if there are any members of the public wishing to make comment, please use the React raise hand feature and the chair will call on you. Next item on today's agenda is potential approval of the April 15th, 2025 meeting minutes. Could we please get a motion and a second to approve, and then we'll take any comments or revisions?
So moved, Dan Salvucci Whitman.
Second, Michael Lambert.
Motion has been made in second. Are there any comments or revisions to the minutes from the April 15th meeting? Seeing and hearing none. Charlie, please call the roll.
Derek Schuster.
Yes.
Pat Hill.
Yes.
Dee Hartman.
Yes.
Dan Salvucci.
Yes.
Mike Lambert.
Yes.
Mary Waldron.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't think we missed anybody, but motion carries.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. Next item on today's agenda is an update from Brockton Area Transit. Michael or Kelly, do you have any updates?
Just a quick update from us. We're in the middle of our federal triennial review, hoping to wrap that up Thursday. Many thanks to OCPC for their support during the process. And of course, throughout the year, all of your contributions to the agency and to providing support both from our Title VI and from our planning process is much appreciated.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Beth? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Mike, for the update. Michael, excuse me. Next item on the agenda is a report from GATRA. Do we have Mary Ellen or Stacy here?
I do not see either of them, but if they jump in, I'll let you know.
All right, thank you, Sean. Next item on today's agenda is a presentation on the draft federal fiscal year 26 to 30 MassDOT capital investment plan and development process. Presenting will be our manager of capital planning, Michelle Scott. I believe Michelle's going to be presenting shortly.
Hi, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to share my screen. If folks can just give me a moment to pull up my presentation file. All right, let me just put this in. All right, well, thank you, everyone. My name is Michelle Scott. I'm the manager of capital planning for the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, and here to talk about the development of our draft fiscal year 26 to 2030 capital investment plan. So to provide just a quick overview of what the CIP is, it's a rolling 5-year plan that funds the planning, construction, and capital maintenance of the various portions of the Commonwealth's transportation system. Much like the STIP, it's fiscally constrained. One distinction from the STIP as well, that document captures the point of spending at the point of federal obligation. We show the spending on transportation projects over time. And throughout the presentation, I'll be doing a little bit more compare and contrast with the STIP. The CIP includes investments in roads and bridges, bicycle and pedestrian facilities, state-funded transit items, so contributions that the Commonwealth makes to the MBTA and the RTAs, our state rail network, public use airports, MassDOT's enterprise services, and capital assets for the Registry of Motor Vehicles. The diagram on the right-hand portion of the slide shows the general framework we use to put the CIP together. It includes, is guided by transportation plans and priorities at the top level, and I'll talk a little bit more about the relationship between the CIP and the recently adopted Beyond Mobility Long-Range Transportation Plan. In any case, these plans guide the development of CIP programs, which serve as kind of buckets for projects that are organized by theme or by mode, all of these supporting improvements to transportation outcomes. This slide covers the various sources that we use to fund transportation capital investment in the Commonwealth. Of course, includes federal funding from the various modal administrations, both formula and discretionary. Includes various forms of state funding, including general obligation bond proceeds or state bond cap, various sources of special obligation bonds for particular projects. One feature this year is some of these bonds are supported by contributions of fair share surtax funding from FY25 into the Commonwealth's Transportation Fund. Also, some increase in support for matching federal discretionary grants coming from the Commonwealth's Federal Matching and Debt Reduction Fund. Other sources that support the CIP include revenues for tolled facilities, as well as other third-party contributions and sources. This slide covers a little bit more of the compare and the contrast with the STIP. So this diagram on the left shows components that are included within MassDOT CIP. The items in green are informed by decisions that MassDOT and you all at the Metropolitan Planning Organizations make for spending federal funds on roadway projects. Also includes spending that MassDOT does with its transit dollars, as well as the matches it provides for its own and for RTA federal dollars for vehicle purchases, facility upgrades, and the like. The items in blue are other items included within the CIP, ranging from investments in Chapter 90 to state support for the MBTA, as well as state-funded investments in our rail and aeronautic systems. On the diagram on the right, highlights items that do appear in the STIP, but not in the CIP. These are primarily federal funds coming direct to transit agencies. So we developed the CIP on an annual basis. Takes us about 9 to 10 months to put the plan together. We're kind of winding down to that stage of finalizing our draft plan for release for a 21-day public comment period. As part of that process, we get approval from the MassDOT Board of Directors to release a plan for public review. That meeting is happening tomorrow, actually, if you're interested in tuning in. The board also reviews the public feedback we collect and any changes between the draft and the final to support adoption of a final CIP, which we expect will occur in mid-June. One other note is that the bars for the individual activities areas here extend very long, as we're constantly getting refreshed information about funding sources and selected investments, including from the MPO project selection process. So I want to talk a little bit about Beyond Mobility and its relationship to the CIP. Again, this is our statewide long-range transportation plan. Many of you may have participated in Beyond Mobility engagement activities that happened a few years ago. The diagram on the right highlights the major priority areas within Beyond Mobility, as well as major cross-cutting themes. We've done a lot of work this year to integrate these into the CIP, both by how we communicate about our capital investments in our documentation and materials, as well as using these as guides to inform how we're sizing projects and how we're potentially creating new programs to make sure that we can advance items included under these priority areas. So I wanted to provide some quick spending highlights. We're looking at this point at approximately an $18.6 billion plan, as highlighted in the table on the left. The diagram on the right shows some top 10 major investment programs within the CIP. You can see that largely the bridge program is far and away our largest source of funding, but we also have spending in these top 10 areas in a variety of modal areas, and as well as for the mega projects for Alston I-90 and the Cape Cod bridges. So just to make some example connections between our investments and the spending for different beyond mobility priority areas. For example, for Chapter 90, we have $1 billion included in the CIP to support communities as they invest in state of good repair for things like bridges and pavement. Again, supporting travel experience by increasing the quality of systems infrastructure. Supporting reliability through investments in our bridge and interstate and non-interstate pavement programs, as these investments help create facilities to make sure that we're ensuring consistent travel times. We're also continuing to expand our bicycle and pedestrian network and other transportation options which support destination connectivity. Continuing to invest in resiliency through culvert, dam, and flow control improvements. Supporting safety in many ways throughout the CIP. Some highlights here include intersection upgrades and spending for both systematic safety upgrades and improvements that address the needs of vulnerable road users, and supporting clean transportation through investments in the RTAs to help upgrade facilities and vehicles to run electric. Also continuing to support our municipalities through the CIP. There's a link, or the QR code here connects to our Grant Central portal where you can learn more about individual programs. But in addition to Chapter 90, we have a variety of number of local aid grant programs for things like bridges, pavement, complete streets improvements, etc. One thing to note about Chapter 90, we're continuing to fund that at consistent with historic levels in the CIP. However, we recognize that there is pending legislation that would increase the size of the Chapter 90 program and fund it with fair share surtax dollars. So we're monitoring progress on that, which may affect spending for future CIPs. Just want to highlight some investments included in the CIP. For the Old Colony area, and there are examples in the bridge and pavement category on the screen here, including the bridge improvements in Duxbury, corridor improvements in Easton and Stoughton, etc. Also want to highlight investments in transit and our airports, including investments for electric vehicles for the Brockton Area Transit Authority, and terminal improvements and taxiway improvements at the Plymouth Municipal Airport. So we anticipate on Thursday to be able to release a draft CIP for the public review. Just to help you navigate that document once it's available, we have a main narrative that describes how we put the CIP together. Appendix A is our detailed project listing, and then you can learn more about CIP programs by viewing Appendix B. One of the major changes that we include between the draft and final versions is including results of an equity analysis, and so we'll have that available for the final version and for discussion with our board of directors on June 18th. Talk a little bit about upcoming public engagement opportunities. Following tomorrow's board meeting, we anticipate kicking off our public comment period on May 22nd. As part of that, we'll be hosting a series of public meetings, and we appreciate the support from the Old Colony MPO and other MPOs around Massachusetts to host these. The dates for these public meetings are highlighted in that map on the right-hand portion of the slide. Southeastern Massachusetts meeting is scheduled for June 5th. Other ways you can comment, in addition to attending a public meeting, is through letter or email. We'll also be releasing a web-based public project viewer tool where you can provide comments directly on specific projects. One thing I'll note about the public meetings, while we do include some regional highlights in terms of projects, all of these meetings have the same information about the CIP. So if you can't attend one focused on Southeast Mass, you're definitely welcome at any of the others and can provide comment on any aspect of the CIP you like at any of these meetings. So that concludes my material for today's presentation. And if you have any questions, happy to take those at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Does anyone have any questions for Michelle on the CIP or her presentation? All right. Again, thank you, Michelle, for taking the time to update members on the
Thank you.
CIP process. The next item on today's agenda is the potential action for FFY 25 to 29 Old Colony tip. I believe this is Bill.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Derek. We have two items today on the tip. The FFY 2025 to 2029 tip, I should say. So first is an adjustment, which is adjustment number 4. And then following that, we'll talk about Amendment 4, which just concluded its public review and comment period. So if you just want to go to the next page, Sean. So Amendment 4 has several items. It includes adding in community transit grant project program awards that were just awarded recently. Two of those are going to Brockton Area Transit. So one is for the purchase of 5 vehicles in a total of $621,000. All of these are a mix of federal and state match. And the second one being the replacement of vehicle replacement vehicles for that, and the total project cost on that is $118,000. South Shore Community Action Council, they received a grant for a purchase of one low floor minibus, and that's in the total of $105,000. And the ARC of Greater Brockton, they received a grant for a purchase of go to the next page. For the purchase of a we go for the total of $120,000. So those are the 4 Community Transit Grant Program awards, and congratulations to those awardees. Yeah, it's a great program, and every year, both BAT and other agencies in our region have had a lot of success acquiring either vehicles or system support through this program. So it's been great. So we also in this amendment, we have several cost adjustments on items. First one is to buy associated capital maintenance items. The old project value on that was $10,000. That's going to $15,000. Acquire miscellaneous support equipment. The old value was $40,000. That's going to $68,000. Vehicle overhaul on 4 vehicles. The old value was $900,000. That is going to $1,037,000. Brockton Air Transit, again, rehab and rehabilitation and renovation of maintenance facility. The old value was $10,000, new value is $30,000. Acquiring support vehicles too. That old value is $30,000. That is going to $36,000. And then finally we have a cost reduction, and that is for the intermodal facility. The old value was $400,000, and the new value is $204,000. So that is a reduction in value, reduction in cost of $196,000. Through consultation with MassDOT, it was determined that an adjustment is the appropriate action for these items. So that summarizes the contents of this adjustment. I'd open up to any questions, and if not, then I'd ask this board to consider endorsing this adjustment number 4 as presented.
Thank you, Bill. I just have a clarifying note on the South Shore Community Action Coalition's 5310 award. The match is not state match, it's other non-federal, so that could mean it's a donation or agency
Okay.
funds or some other non-federal source, but just wanted to clarify that for the record.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Bill on the tip adjustments as presented? Seeing and hearing none, could we please have a motion and second for favorable action to tip adjustment number 4? So are we at 4? I didn't actually see the number. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's 4. Yes.
And I'll
Okay.
make that motion, Dan from Whitman.
Second, Michael Lambert.
Thank you, Dan and Michael. When you're ready, Charlie, please call the roll.
Yes, Derek Schuster,
Yes.
Rich Bilski,
Yes.
thank you. Pat Hill,
Yes.
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Mike Lambert,
Yes.
Becky Coletta.
Yes.
Thank you all. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. And I believe we also have a highway action.
Yes, sir. So this is this is the following the public review and comment period for amendment number 4. As you recall, at the last MPO meeting, we released an amendment to this public review and comment period. The amendment was to move project 609052, which is the intersection improvements for Center Street at Plymouth Street here in Brockton. Move that from this current federal fiscal year 2025 to 2026, as that project will not be ready for advertisement this year. This project is advertised in the new tip, or not advertising, is listed in the new tip that we'll talk about in a moment for FFY 2026. So it's still there. It's just moving out a year. It was we was presented to the Yale Colony Planning Council Board of Directors. They approved it as presented, and it was also presented to the Yale Colony Joint Transportation Committee, and likewise they approved this amendment as presented. That summarizes the public comments received on this amendment.
Thank you, Bill. Are there any questions for Bill on amendment number 4 as presented?
I see Jed Resco in the attendees has his hand raised.
Yes, go ahead, Jed.
Hi, excuse me. As an abutter, I live at 147 Center Street and also a cyclist. I just want to register my disappointment. I understand there are factors that lead to the delay. You can't change the process, but entire process moves too slow, in my opinion, for the safety of people of Brockton. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment,
you.
Jed. Did anyone have any other questions or comments on the amendment as presented? Seeing and hearing none, could we please have a motion and second for favorable action to amendment number 4?
So
So
moved, Dan.
moved.
I'll second it then.
Becky, then Dan, thank you. When ready, Charlie, please call the roll.
Derek Schuster,
Yes.
Rich Bilski,
Yes.
Pat Hill,
Yes.
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Mike Lambert,
Yes.
Becky Coletta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Were there any other items for tip action today, Bill?
Not on the 25 to 29, just
All right.
Yep.
Then we will move to our next agenda item, the 26 to 30 Old Colony tip. Take it away, Bill.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So as you recall, at the last meeting, we released the FFY 2026 to 2030 tip to public review and comment period. This is a very robust program, as it contains $300 million in highway and bridge projects and $78 million in transit projects. So it's a overall very exciting tip. So this went out to the traditional public review and comment period. If you just want to go to the next slide. Thank you. So I'll just kind of summarize the public review and comments that we received during the public review period. The first was from the town administrator in the town of East Bridgewater. His comments were kind of twofold. So his first was a question about the project for the replacement of the Pond Street Bridge in that town. It had been previously listed in the tip for federal fiscal year 2029, I believe, and then it's no longer listed in this tip. After consultation with MassDOT, it was explained that since this project is relatively early on in the design stage, and there can be a lot of variability in cost at this stage, depending on unknowns. So they they're choosing a new approach, not to actually list it at this time, because again, that cost can vary widely, and so they assured both Old Colony Planning Council and the town that design is continuing to progress on that project, and it's still anticipated to be advertised within the lifespan of this tip. It's just not physically listed or assigned to a particular program year at this time. And I'll note that that wasn't the only project that this affected in the tip. There was another, at least one other that I'm aware of in the town of West Bridgewater. Similarly, it was a bridge project in an out year, and likewise, design is progressing, and it's anticipated to be advertised within the lifespan of this tip, but it's at this time not actually listed because there's just a lot of unknowns with the cost relate. Well, yeah, a lot of unknowns with design that can really affect the project cost. So that answered the question about the bridge, and then they also inquired about the Route 18 at Highland Street project, which is programmed in the tip. They inquired how was the decision made that this would be that this would advance before another project that they're looking for in the town, also on Route 18 at East and West, East and West Street, which is Route 18 at 106. So I explained to town that, there's a multitude of factors that go into how we determine how which projects advance ahead of others. In this case, the Route 18 at Highland Street project, is has a much higher scoring value for safety versus the other one, as this one has a history of more serious crashes than Route 18 to Route 6. So that was the major factor. But there are other things too, obviously, project readiness, project cost. So a multitude of factors go into determining which project advances ahead of another. But and the town conceded that Route 18 is and Highland Street is the priority. They believe that it is, but they also stressed the importance of Route 18, Route 106, and to paraphrase, hope that we don't forget about it, and absolutely not. It's still there. We're looking to program that whenever it is feasible to do so. So that was the response to the town on that one. Next one. So the again, just like the others, this was presented to both the OCPC Board of Directors and the OCPC, the Old Colony Joint Transportation Committee. Both of those boards approved the tip as presented by staff. And finally, next one. So we had the Office of Transportation Planning. They provided a robust review of this document. They were submitted by Chris Clem, which was our liaison to MassDOT, but I know that several people in both OTP and the transit division at MassDOT had hands on this and reviewing it and providing comments. They provided quite a robust set of comments, as you can see in the spreadsheet here, and also note it went beyond the spreadsheet as well. They also marked up the actual document with additional comments. We went through all the comments with a fine-tooth comb. We responded to each one. A lot of them were, they ranged from simple things like typographical things or making sure links pointed to the right place, but there were also some substantial revisions from the original draft. The original draft was consistent with previous versions of the tip that which contained a comprehensive and equity and environmental justice analysis. A lot of that material is no longer consistent with federal directives. So that required kind of a bit of a rewrite of the tip, as well as some associated documents. Like the tip references, for example, the highway chapter of the long range transportation plan. That chapter needed some rewrite. And then there are other things too, like making sure that we're using the correct reporting forms for the highway projects and the transit projects. So we went through these, like I said, we went through them all and submitted our revisions back to OTP. And at this time, we're confident that we've addressed everything to OTP's satisfaction. So I guess at that, I would just open it up to any questions or comments.
Thank you, Bill. Are there any questions or comments on the draft 26 to 30 tip as presented? I just have one little note, seeing the two comments about the off-system bridge projects, just in case board members are wondering. The state is preserving a project line placeholder for off-system bridge projects into the out years of the development program. That placeholder's reference number is S as in Sally 13276. So when the STIP is published, that, to Bill's point, the state's approach is for bridge projects that are not yet at 25% design, and therefore we don't have a firmer cost estimation of what they will be assumed for those placeholders and as design advances when we do the 27 to 31 development program next year. If they're at 25% or further, we'll make a programming decision at that point.
Thank you.
All right. If there are no questions, could we please have a motion and second to approve the 26 to 30 Old Colony MPO tip as presented?
So moved.
All right, second, Dan Sabucci.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Charlie, please call the roll.
Derek Schuster,
Yes.
Rich Bilski,
Yep.
Pat Hill,
Yes.
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Mike Lambert,
Yes.
Becky Coletta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you and congratulations, Old Colony MPO, on
Thank you.
the brand new 26 to 30 tip. It's a big milestone. Next item on today's agenda is draft Old Colony Safe Streets for All action plan. Charlie, is this you?
Bill
No.
McNulty.
Oh, Bill,
Me
go
again.
ahead, Bill.
Me again. Thank you. This board, at the last meeting, they released the Safe Streets for All comprehensive safety action plan that was presented at our last meeting by Beta Group Incorporated, which is our consultant that we hired with our SS4A contract to work with us to develop this plan. That went through the 21-day public review and comment period, and it was presented to the board of directors, who approved it as presented by staff, and also presented to the Joint Transportation Committee that was who also approved it as presented by staff. We reached out to the safety division at MassDOT for their comments. They didn't have any comment at this time. So I'd ask this board to consider endorsing this SS4A regional action plan. And I'll note that now with this endorsed plan, this allows communities to move forward and apply for planning and implementation and demonstration grants through the SS4A program. Now that they have this endorsed action plan.
Well, endorsed hopefully in 30 seconds, but
Yeah.
yes.
Fingers
No,
crossed.
that's exciting. Thank you, Bill. Does anyone have any questions for Bill on the SS4A action plan as presented? All right, seeing and hearing none, could we please have a motion for favorable action to approve the Old Colony SS4A action plan?
Yeah, so moved, Dan from Whitman.
Second, Lee Hartman.
All right, Lee.
Thank you, Dan and Lee. Charlie, when you're ready, please call the roll.
Derek Schuster,
Yes.
Rich Bilski,
Yes.
Pat Hill,
Yes.
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Mike Lambert,
Yes.
Becky Coletta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Excellent, thank you. And on this, also congratulations, Old Colony Region. This is a huge milestone for safety in your region as well.
Thank you.
Another action item, draft federal fiscal year 2026 Old Colony Unified Planning Work Program. Who is presenting on this?
That would be me, Chair.
Okay, take it away, Charlie.
Thank you. So before the board today, we have an introduction of the draft 2026 Unified Planning Work Program. As MPO members and the public may recall, a couple months ago, we had a coordination session with you at one of your meetings to talk about our universe of projects. And since that time, staff has rolled up their sleeves and came up with a list of discretionary projects to add into our Unified Planning Work Program. So as you know, the Unified Planning Work Program itself is scope of work and budget for the federal fiscal year upcoming. And on your slide here, you have a couple major task items. First section being introduction and administrative stuff, but task 1000 is management and support of our planning process and certification activities. And that's where you'll see the subtasks residing within there. And here are the presentations earlier from Bill McNulty about the tip. So that's how our planning work is funded through subtask 1400. And as you can see, there's different elements in here, such as public participation, development of the Unified Planning Work Program itself, and our Title VI program. Moving on to task 2000, that's our data reconnaissance, acquisition, and analysis activities. And as you can see on your screen, there are 5 subtasks, including demographic and land use. And then 2200 is our traffic counting program and drone program. And, spotlighting some of this other important work is our geographic information system. And then rounding it out is our complement of management systems. That's the congestion, pavement, safety, and flow, and also our funding of our travel demand modeling work. In the next slide, the task 3000 is our short and long range planning activities, and this is where you will see some of our discretionary planning projects residing, and that's where you'll see tasks 3300 through 3600 are the new tasks for this UPWP. The first being a federal required coordinated human service transportation plan. This is required to be updated and in place every 4 years, so the communities and entities may apply for community transit grants. Next up, we have phase 1 of our 2028 long-range transportation plan. This will be actually a 2-year effort. Yeoman's work on this upcoming year will be working on some of the actual chapters and then embarking on public participation later in the year. And then next year will be focused mainly on public participation and working on travel demand modeling and efforts of the socioeconomic forecasting committee. Task 3500 is a corridor study in the town of Pembroke, and that's for the Route 53 and 139 corridor, starting at the Hanover town line on the northwestern section and then traveling easterly to the Marshfield town line. And then our next corridor study is the Route 80 corridor study in the communities of Kingston and Plymouth. And this will start in the northern section at the intersection of Route 38 and Route 80, and then travel southerly to the intersection with Carver Road in Plymouth. Along this corridor, it's some interesting development potential for the former Sacred Heart High School. There's also an interchange with Route 44, which is actually a limited access interchange right now. And I know there's been some interest from the communities to open that up to a fully operational interchange. And then last but not least, there are some identified sidewalk needs along the southern portion of Route 80 as we get closer to Carver Road, and particularly as there's in the vicinity of an elementary school in that area. But those are our new discretionary studies to be uptaken. And then rounding this out, we have task 4000, which is our transportational technical activities beyond highway and bridge. So this is transit, and then also studies that we would undertake with BAT under contract. Then rounding out task 4000 area, we have a discussion of the transportation planning staff, who's on what task, and then also provide the estimated budget. I'll note that the UPWP is funded with federal highway funds, federal transit funds. MassDOT is providing the match. Thank you, MassDOT. And BAT is providing the funds for the BAT planning activities. And then in the appendices, we have some administrative items, such as the self-certification statement that you as the MPO reviewed and endorsed last month, and then glossary of terms. And then once we complete the public review and comment period, we'll include public comments in the appendices of the Unified Planning Work Program. But that's our brief overview of this document. Our goal for today is to present and answer any questions that you all may have, and then secondarily have this be released to a public review and comment period. And then we'll reconvene next month and share any public comments and provide a revised draft UPWP.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Does anyone have any questions for Charlie or staff on the 2026 Unified Planning Work Program draft as presented by Charlie?
Yeah, Dan Salvucci Whitman. Charlie, I have a couple of questions. Have we done a safety audit on bicycle users with the new way we're doing it in the streets and roads by putting an area where a zone for bikes? I mean, it's either on the side of the road, and sometimes where there's a right-hand turn, it's in the middle of the road. Have we done any type of judgment on any bicycle safety as far as injuries due to accidents of the way we're doing it?
We have not had a chance to pull data from the MassDOT Crash Impact Portal. I know one of the things that Bill McNulty does is monitor changes in projects and their related safety impacts as part of the performance-based planning and the safety management system. But that's something we can take a deeper dive into and perhaps look into that under task 3100 regional multimodal planning activities.
Yeah, and the fact that in the town of Whitman, we're having issues with young kids riding down the middle of the street and not following the law. And our police department has been taking certain actions of, if they're doing that, taking their bikes away and having their parents come and get the bikes and talk to the parents about it. But it's just something that we need to look at and teach young kids the proper way of using their bikes on the streets of their town. My opinion. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dan. So one of the things, sometimes it's a conversation or analysis beyond the specific metrics. You might see an uptick in a particular crash history at an intersection, but that's where, as part of our background work, we work with the local police departments and pull the actual collision diagrams and crash reports to see what and if any mitigating circumstances there might be to those particular incidents, aside from infrastructure itself, such as operator error, level of impairment, etc.
Thanks for your question, Dan. I actually think it highlights an opportunity that the public and the board have during the 21-day public comment period to provide valuable feedback to MPO staff in case there are any recommended revisions or additions. I think, for example, looking at tasks 3100, 3200, or 4200 might be appropriate considerations for what what Dan's suggesting. But
Yeah.
I think looking at the detail in the document might actually reflect that that could be a planned eligible activity in the draft UPWP already. So thank you for raising that.
Yep, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? All right, seeing and hearing none, could we please have a motion to release the draft 2026 Unified Planning Work Program for a 21-day public comment period?
So moved, Dan Salvucci.
A second, Becky Coletta.
Thank you, Dan and Becky. Charlie, please call the roll.
Derek Schuster,
Yes.
Rich Bilski,
Yes.
Pat Hill,
Yes.
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Mike Lindberg,
Yes.
Becky Coletta.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you, Charlie. Masset OTP looks forward to our review. Next item on today's agenda is administrative matters, other business, and date and time of next meeting. Go ahead, Charlie.
Sure, thanks, Chair. So as Bill McNulty alluded to earlier, there's a upcoming Safe Streets for All NOFO that's open and closes on June 26th. So we have some information in your staff report here. Next slide. There have been some recent webinars, one on implementation grants and the second one being on planning and demonstration activities. But here's a link to the USDOT's SS4A page so you can find some more information. Next slide. So, hey, if you haven't heard about it, our friends at the Federal Funds and Infrastructure Office meet monthly and share ongoing grant opportunities and opportunities for technical assistance from this state entity. So their next meeting is May 27th at 2 p.m. And here's a registration link in your staff report. Next. And then last but not least, we're asking the MPO members to review and confirm a couple of upcoming meetings, the next being June 17th at 10 a.m. and the next one being July 15th, if needed, at 10 a.m.
Thank you, Charlie. Were you looking for feedback on the meeting dates and times, or just confirming that this is when they are?
Chair, yeah, these are just the normal third Tuesday at 10 a.m.
Okay. Well, thank you. Was there any other new business or administrative matters or questions for what Charlie presented? All right, seeing and hearing none, our next order of business is adjournment. Could we please have a motion and second to adjourn?
So moved, Dan Whitman.
Second.
Thank you, Dan and Becky. Without objection, we are adjourned. I'd
Derek,
heard go ahead, Sean.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I see Jen Teresco has his hand raised.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's not a, I would just make, it's not a business matter. It's in the chat, Dan, I put a note. My group, Brockton Bikes, we lead monthly group rides here in Brockton on the streets, but they're legal, they're safe. So I was offering, we'd be happy to come over to Whitman and lead a ride. Hopefully it'll be an outlet for those young people to be able to ride, in the streets, quote unquote, but in a safe manner. And so yeah, if you can contact with someone who would do it, and hopefully we'd inspire someone locally then to do that, so that we could do things in an organized way instead of a free-for-all. Thank you.
That would be nice if you could get a hold of Whitman Police Department and set something up with our safety officer. They may be able to do something in the parking lot of our police station and on that main street.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Jed. And apologies, I didn't see your hand raised. And Sean, thank you for calling that out. Reverting back to the motion in second, I believe at this time there are no other comments. So now with that objection, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, Old Colony MPO.
Thanks,
See you
everyone.
next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. See you next month.